From welfare to world stage, Conor McGregor went from collecting Ireland's job seekers allowance to collecting belts. Fast. Before the suits and soundbites, he was a plumber's apprentice in Dublin who quit to chase a fistfight for a living. The risk looked reckless. The results were ruthless. By 2012 to 2013, he'd turned Cage Warriors into a launchpad, starching names across 2 weight classes. He captured the CW featherweight title in June 2012, then the lightweight strap that New Year's Eve, becoming a simultaneous 2-division champ before it was fashionable. That double crown didn't just punch his UFC ticket, it announced a marketable problem. Precise southpaw counterpunching, odd rhythms, and a left hand that traveled faster than hype. Specifics? KO over Ivan Buchinger for the CW lightweight belt on December 31, 2012, after a run that made regional opponents look like volunteers. Outcome? The UFC came calling in early 2013. Ireland suddenly had a contender with a mic, a missile of a left hand, and a nation ready to chant his name like a drumline. The notorious arrival. The debut wasn't subtle. April 2013 in Stockholm, McGregor blew out Marcus Brimage in 67 seconds. Then asked the UFC for 50 G's, baby, like payroll was his birthright. The charisma hit as hard as the counters. He followed with Boston in August 2013, outpointing Max Holloway despite tearing his ACL mid-fight, and then headlined a raucous Dublin card in July 2014, stopping Diego Brandao in round 1. That's where the manifesto landed. We're not here to take part, we're here to take over. It sounded like bluster. It played like prophecy. The effect? A movement. Ireland traveled, Vegas listened, and the UFC finally had a showman who also separated people from consciousness. The ranking climb wasn't just wins, it was theater with receipts, and the featherweight division felt the temperature rise. A year of mind games. What Muhammad Ali did with poetry, McGregor did with profanity. The Jose Aldo build-up from 2014 to 2015 wasn't just promotion, it was psychological demolition on a world tour. Aldo was undefeated for a decade and universally respected. McGregor treated him like an opening act. It started in Dublin pressers and escalated globally. Conor snatched Aldo's belt off the table in Vegas, called him a little Brazilian weasel, and turned every city stop into an improv show with punches only implied. The UFC had never seen a fighter weaponize humor, insult, and charm this effectively. Aldo, normally stoic, looked increasingly frayed. By the time they reached fight week, McGregor had already won the mental war. Every stare down, every microphone grab, every quip, Aldo seemed to age 10 years under the spotlight. The featherweight title bout was set for July 2015, but Aldo pulled out injured, prolonging the tension. McGregor faced Chad Mendes instead and stopped him in 2 rounds. With an interim belt and the entire MMA world tuned in, the stage for Aldo's reckoning was finally set. 13 seconds to immortality. December 12, 2015, Las Vegas. The fight the world waited 18 months for ended before most fans sat down. 13 seconds. 1 check hook, 1 face-first collapse, 1 career immortalized. McGregor's left hand caught Aldo mid-charge, flattening the decade-long champion in the fastest title finish in UFC history. The knockout replayed on loops, memes, and national TV like a sports prophecy fulfilled. Aldo had landed a punch of his own, but McGregor's landed first, cleaner, meaner, and louder. That night, Dublin didn't sleep. Conor held the Irish flag over 2 belts, the interim and the real one, and shouted his most quotable line, "Precision beats power, timing beats speed." The precision was undeniable, the timing, cosmic. The win made him the UFC's biggest global star overnight, eclipsing Rousey and even some champions in higher divisions. But beneath the triumph, the seeds of overconfidence were quietly germinating. The myth had been born, one that even McGregor himself might not live up to. The Diaz humbling. Every empire meets a wall, and for McGregor, that wall wore a Stockton grin. March 5th, 2016, UFC 196, Conor faced Nate Diaz, a late replacement with zero fear and infinite cardio. The Irishman was favored, flashy, and fresh off his featherweight reign. But moving up to 170 pounds meant stepping into a war zone where his precision couldn't hide his fatigue. Round 1 looked like another McGregor highlight reel. Clean lefts, swagger, showmanship. Then Diaz ate it all, grinned through the blood, and started talking back. By round 2, McGregor's gas tank emptied faster than his bravado. Diaz tagged him, dragged him down, and choked him out. It was the first time the notorious mystique cracked. The memes were instant. "I'm not surprised, mother." And the lesson? Brutal. McGregor's aura of invincibility vanished, replaced by something rarer, vulnerability. He had chased weight, underestimated endurance, and learned that pressure doesn't always fold under punchlines. For the first time since leaving Dublin, he looked human. But the man who built his empire on hype wasn't about to let humility be his headline. Redemption and 2 belts. If losing to Diaz was the slap, the rematch was the statement. August 2016, UFC 202. McGregor arrived leaner, quieter, obsessed. No world tour, no theatrics, just revenge. Over 5 rounds, he fought like a man who'd studied humility in slow motion. Every feint, every counter, every calf kick showed a recalibrated fighter who had learned restraint. He edged Diaz by majority decision, avenged the loss, and restored the legend. 3 months later came New York, UFC 205, and Eddie Alvarez became a cautionary tale. McGregor dismantled him with surgical precision, earning a second belt in effortless fashion. "I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody," he declared, draped in gold. It was the apex, 2 belts, global fame, and 0 ceiling. He was no longer a fighter chasing success. He was success. Yet that same night, something subtle shifted. The hunger that built him started competing with the comfort that fame brings. And comfort has never been a great sparring partner. The $100 million mirage. By 2017, McGregor wasn't just a fighter. He was a brand with his own orbit. And like every blockbuster franchise, he wanted a crossover event. Enter Floyd Mayweather. Boxing's 49-0 icon agreed to what looked like a circus and turned into a billion-dollar night. The lead-up was pure theater. McGregor in mink coats and Versace suits, calling Mayweather a 40-year-old midget while promising to bounce his head off the canvas. The trash talk was electric. The punches, less so. When the bell rang in August 2017, Conor looked sharp early but predictable late. Mayweather, the human algorithm, solved him by round 6 and closed the show in 10. Still, McGregor earned a reported $100 million, roughly 500 years worth of plumber wages. It was the richest loss in combat sports history, and the moment his priorities pivoted. Fame expanded, but focus evaporated. He'd left the UFC as a king. He returned as a mogul who didn't need to fight. And that's where every great sports tragedy starts, when the hunger that made you disappears faster than the champagne you're spraying. The Khabib powder keg. When Conor finally came back, it wasn't to defend. He'd already been stripped of both belts. It was to provoke. His target, Khabib Nurmagomedov, an undefeated Russian grappler built like a bear trap. But what started as competition became full-blown chaos. April 2018 saw the infamous bus attack. McGregor hurled a dolly through a bus window in Brooklyn, injuring multiple fighters, all because Khabib's team had confronted his teammate Artem Lobov days earlier. The footage went viral, the charges stacked up, and Dana White called it the most disgusting thing in UFC history. The pre-fight build for UFC 229 was nuclear. McGregor attacked Khabib's religion, family, and nationality, crossing every imaginable line to sell the fight. Even by MMA's Wild West standards, it felt ugly. Fans weren't watching a rivalry. They were watching a powder keg with a pay-per-view code. By fight night, tension eclipsed technique. McGregor wasn't just facing Khabib's wrestling. He was facing months of self-inflicted chaos waiting to explode. UFC 229 chaos. October 6th, 2018. Las Vegas again, but this time there was no magic left. From the opening takedown, Khabib Nurmagomedov turned McGregor's comeback into a grappling clinic. Conor's famous left hand might as well have been stuck in airport security. Round after round, Khabib mauled him. Clinches, ground control, whispered insults between elbows. When McGregor finally tapped to a neck crank in round 4, the fight should have ended. Instead, it detonated. Khabib leapt over the cage to attack McGregor's cornermen, while teammates brawled inside the octagon. It was bedlam on live TV, like an Irish pub fight set to pay-per-view pricing. The Nevada Commission handed out fines and suspensions, but the damage ran deeper. McGregor's aura, once built on precision and composure, was now buried under chaos and controversy. The man who once symbolized confidence now embodied combustion. Khabib remained undefeated. McGregor walked away bruised, fined, and strangely adrift. For the first time, his story wasn't about conquest. It was about control and how fame can choke it out. Broken leg, broken legacy. If there was any doubt McGregor's luck had turned, UFC 264 erased it in one snap. July 2021, facing Dustin Poirier for the trilogy, McGregor's left tibia fractured as he stepped back, ending the fight and maybe the last trace of his prime. He sat on the mat screaming, selling pay-per-view fury through sheer adrenaline. It was a cruel metaphor. The leg broke, but the show went on. Since then, the headlines haven't come from octagons. They've come from courtrooms, nightclubs, and whiskey promotions. Proper 12 boomed, but discipline fizzled. The man once hailed as the sport's ultimate self-made success had become its loudest cautionary tale. Still, McGregor refuses to vanish. Training footage leaks, comeback tweets fly, and hope lingers that notorious still means dangerous. But the truth is harsher. He changed the game, then became trapped by the character he created. The fighter built on hunger found comfort instead. And that, in combat sports, is the real knockout.